No Jedi here anymore. Only dreamers like this fool.
It's time to head south with the Fantha From Down Under.
The Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
You're listening to the Fantha From Down Under, brought to you by Fantha Tracks.
That's not how the Force works.
Ready? Aim! And...
Fantha!
And here comes the parade.
Here is your host, Adam O'Brien.
G'day, mate. How you going?
Tell that to Country Club.
Roger, roger.
G'day, mate. How you going? This is the Fantha From Down Under. Here, brought to you by FanthaTracks.com. Adam O'Brien here, hosting tonight as we look into some great news coming out of the D23 exhibition, of course, run by, I think it's a company called Disney. That's right. Some massive news for Star Wars. We've got the release of the trailer for The Mandalorian, the series that's going to be streaming on Disney Plus, and of course, it looks amazing. If not anything, this looks like the kind of stuff we had in the Bounty Hunter novels years ago, and of course, even the expanded universe or now Legends material of bounty hunters like Fett, Jango Fett, and of course, many others. Of course, what I love about this too is just this is a real Western vibe to this. And we've just had the news too out of D23 that Ming-Na Wen has joined the cast. And of course, she's an amazing talent to her own self. And of course, being involved in Marvel. And as far back, she filmed Street Fighter out here with Jean-Claude Van Damme out here on the Gold Coast. Literally only about probably 2 blocks away from here at the Gold Coast Roadshow Studios. And again, that was a huge adaptation for its time. Whether it was a great film is another thing altogether. We've had obviously the big reveal that Ewan McGregor is literally coming back as Ben Kenobi. That's right. It is literally Ben Kenobi at this stage, as he's going to be leading and directing, reportedly, episodes of the Kenobi standalone series, which is set a year after Solo, a Star Wars story. So, if it is, I dare say we might have some Ray Park in there somewhere. Well, hopefully. Whether that's going to tie into that and have Crimson Dawn be part of the storyline would be interesting to see. But again, it's just great at this stage to have some amazing stuff coming. And, of course, the live-action series, which I suppose you look back at it, GL tried to get one going and it was going to cost X amount of dollars. But, I think that would have been on a whole other level. Even if he'd brought it out back then, it'd still be something that's extremely hard to put on. I think GL's series was going to be more set on Coruscant and places like Nashada. And you would have had a lot more of the criminal underworld showing up, a lot more different types of creatures, etc. So, you can imagine the skyrocketing budget of shows like that. Star Wars Underworld reportedly was going to be cool. Anyway, but tonight we have Eric Walker, now, who, of course, you all know is the original Mace, the OM. And, of course, he is part of Caravan of Courage and, of course, Battle for Endor, back when he was doing acting with Star Wars world. And, of course, he's been involved in Less Than Zero and Little Soldiers, the old Disney film. Again, with a background and in that, and of course moving now into music as well, Eric has obviously a unique perspective when it comes to looking at the Star Wars franchise and of course sci-fi in general. So he's here today to chat about that, but also chat about his brand new website and of course podcast, and it's called All for Sci-Fi, which is of course, guess what? It's all about sci-fi. So without further ado, here's Eric, and let's get into a chat as we look at the amazing work that he's been doing.
Hey guys, how you doing? This is the one, the only, the mullet, that's right, the Fantha From Down Under, and all the way here in Gold Coast. We love chatting Star Wars. We also love chatting science fiction. And I tell you what, we have somebody that is a dear friend of not only the Fantha, but also a dear friend to all in sci-fi. The one, the only, the creator and extraordinaire of the new website, All for Sci-Fi, which also is an amazing video and audio podcast for your delight. The one, the only, Eric Walker. Pal, how are you?
I'm doing great. Hey, you got to be careful. That's a lethal mullet. So.
Mate, I got to tell you, fantastic job on this new website. And this is really an entertainment hub for people that love sci-fi. Allforsci-fi.com.
That is what you said you took the words out of my mouth. Allforsci-fi.com is the one and only meeting place for everything sci-fi. Not just sci-fi, but we're talking about fantasy oriented, anything that's very fictional based. Whether it doesn't have to be sci-fi, but it could be related or something near sci-fi. We're going to cover it. We're going to cover it all because everybody loves sci-fi.
Oh, yeah. I mean, sci-fi is so popular right now. Obviously, not only, I think, in the obvious circles, your Star Treks, your Star Wars, but even Marvel. You look at Marvel now is pushing such a science fiction angle with their storytelling. Exactly.
And we're covering everything. We started this website. I think it was, you're talking about Marvel. We started this website talking about Marvel's Endgame, which now is the biggest movie of all time. So that's how we launched the website. We did a podcast talking about Marvel's Endgame. And yeah, you're right. Marvel is jumped into that universe, and it very much is sci-fi. So we cover everything from Marvel to Star Wars to the new Dune movie. We're going to be talking about that, and we're very excited about that. And look at Netflix, for example. They've jumped. We've covered just recently The Wu Assassins, which is out on Netflix, and we talk about that. So we're covering a lot of things for your enjoyment, and it's more than just a podcast. I know we're doing that live video podcast, but we're also an information, a news site. We're breaking news, like we just broke that they're getting ready to do the new Matrix movie, and Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss is in it. So we broke that news, and we had some articles earlier. If you go back, we were talking a lot about earlier in the year about this fatigue, this rebooting fatigue that's starting to happen. Oh, yeah. And I said it, and I talked about it, and a week or two later, they started talking about it in the Hollywood trades, like in Variety and Hollywood Reporter. And I'm thinking, is somebody over there is watching or reading going to our website or listening to our podcast? Because I was just complaining about how Hollywood better stand up and take notice. And sure enough, the movies that are reboots or like, Dark Phoenix or stuff that just be redone over and over. We've had enough X-Men movies and stuff like that. So, but yeah, we're going to cover everything from you, and we're going to cover it from a different and a unique perspective because I was part of the entertainment industry. Oh, for sure. So when I cover something, it's different.
You really have a unique perspective. I think, folks, you've got to remember, Eric has obviously that unique perspective being involved in Star Wars itself with, of course, Caravan of Courage and Battle for Endor playing the one, the only, the first, the greatest, Mace Towani.
Thanks. Yeah, so when I cover something, I'm going to look at the acting in the piece. And when we just did the podcast on Wu Assassins recently on Netflix, we talked a lot about the acting and how some of the lead character and this other character who plays the younger brother of Jenny and the friend of the Wu assassin Kai. I think his name's Tommy Wu. I think his name in the piece. How I caught him acting in several episodes. And in the entertainment industry, you don't want to be caught acting. You want to have what we call the magic of believing, and that is getting into your character so much as if it were for real that people believe it. And there were certain scenes where I was taken out of it because I thought he was acting. He was overacting. So we're going to talk about that if there's issues with acting. But overall, I would say the Wu Assassins, it only had a few spots where I caught that. But the thing I liked the most about Wu Assassins was the martial arts choreography. There are some stunning choreography, and they're taking wide angles, just like they do when Keanu Reeves does stuff like in John Wick 3. When the people know how to move and they have some training, those are the films I want to see. So I'm telling everybody, go on Netflix, go watch Wu Assassins, just for the fight choreography, and the CGI effects are good as well.
I'm Anthony Daniels, and you are listening to Fantha Tracks. Well done.
Without a doubt, it's a very interesting series. I think, first of all, even from a story perspective, there's a real mythical sort of arc, and I think trace that back to whether it's comic book or whether it's just heroic fantasy. I think the other thing too is there's so much coming out with this streaming right now. One of them I've been struck by is The Boys, which is on Amazon Prime. What's great about that series is it sort of throws what we know, your X-Men, your Superman, Batman, all that, on its head, and really shows that the dark side of what things can do. And I think that's when it makes it that little bit more captivating. But the choreography alone in Wu Assassins, it's, I think, coming from a martial artist perspective, somebody that's actually studied the true combat side of it. I was involved in Bujinkan and also in some jiu-jitsu, and which is all, I think, cornerstone of your base martial art. And it looks ugly. It always looks ugly. It's never meant to look pretty. But when you've got somebody that can has a cinematic sort of view, like yourselves, who can look at how do you pull back the camera, how do you actually show something for what it is, show those moves to make them look beautiful, and that's what it comes down to.
And that's what they did. And I have a small martial arts background as well. I studied with a gentleman who studied with people that studied with Bruce Lee. So, they studied with Mike Stone and some other people that are pretty well known. So I have a little bit of a background. So I appreciate that. I won't claim to be some great martial artist, that's for sure. And I got a lot to learn, and hopefully you'll never call me master. So, because that means I have nothing left to learn. So, and that's the other thing. If we're talking about movies too, this is off topic. It's not sci-fi, but I don't appreciate what Quentin Tarantino did in that movie with Bruce Lee. But then again, I love the movie. Yes. I love the fantasy element. I know it's not real. So when I think about it like that, I love the movie, but I think he could have been a little bit more respectful to Bruce.
I think so too. Isn't he taking things out of context with Bruce too?
He is, and that's why it's kind of okay. Yeah. But he just needs to stop letting people engage with him about it. Even Shannon, just shut up about it then. That was the best comeback. Just don't talk about it. I understand what you're doing, but just shut up about it. I thought that was funny, So, but you know how the internet is. Everybody wants to make a big deal out of everything, and that's part of the problem.
That's right.
With the internet.
I still think what was grassroots of what Once Upon a Time was so good with. And by the way...
I love that movie. I love many elements about it. What did you think? You're showing me that. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, yeah.
Yeah. So what I loved about it was just the feel. It felt like American Graffiti on steroids.
Oh, okay. That's a good, I could see that. I see that.
The music, the feel, the drive-ins, the houses, the cars.
Because it was a very time period piece, but I caught a big continuity mistake in that movie.
Here we go.
And almost nobody will pick this up. I guarantee it. And I'm going to tell you today what it is. In California, you know how you have an exit sign where you get off at this exit? Back in the 60s, they were not numbered.
So they've just put in the random one that's up there now.
So when you see him, like when he was on the freeway and they got off the freeway and you saw it exit and it showed the number of the exit, they only started numbering them like in the 2000s.
Oh, wow.
So they were actually, so where it said exit, it didn't have a number. It said the street name.
Oh, wow. There you go.
So it's actually a very big continuity mistake. And I don't even know if they know it or they thought to remember it. But I grew up in Southern California. So I remember when they started numbering. I had a hard time figuring out, okay, now it's telling me I got to get off at exit 87 or 52B or because sometimes they number them if they're the same, they're next to each other. It's 51A, 52B, 52-3C because they go in different directions. Back then, it would say get off at Sherman Way North, Sherman Way South. It would say the name of the street. So there's an exclusive for you there on your podcast. There's a big continuity mistake, but we're talking about sci-fi. So it's really a great time to be a fan of sci-fi. This has got to be the most glorious year to be a sci-fi fan that I could remember in a long time. We really have it good now. It's a great time. I mean, there's so many things coming out sci-fi related from the Netflix, which we discussed briefly. We talked about Wu Assassins, but they have I Am Mother, and they have Another Life, which we talked about on our show too, if you check that out. And of course, coming up here soon, next month, we have Ad Astra.
That's
Brad
right.
Pitt,
Yeah,
which is coming out.
That looks so interesting. I mean, to me, I looked at the film first, in the trailer, that is, the teaser, I think, that came out. And straight away, it sort of strikes me as a cross between Mission to Mars and Interstellar.
Yes, it does. It does have that ring. And there was a movie there's a Netflix show I just reviewed, which reminded me of a little bit of Interstellar, that just came out. I'm trying to remember which one it was. I think it was.
Is that the Mars one?
I think it was Another Life. That one had certain elements that reminded me. Yeah, because they remember they had to go find the other life in another long ways away. And then they found out it wasn't there. They were from further away type of thing. That part of Another Life reminded me of Interstellar. So, yeah. And not only that, and to me, we're going to cover stuff like Gemini Man, which is coming out with Will Smith. That kind of, because it's so fictional, it kind of leads to sci-fi as well. Even elements like Toy Story 4 are sort of they're not sci-fi, but they're sort of near that. So we got that. We got Gemini Man. What else do we got? We got a lot of stuff coming out. And of course, at the end of the year, we got the big one, The Rise of Skywalker. So we get to see how it all ends. And hopefully we'll hear that evil laugh.
Oh, yeah.
From Emperor Palpatine.
How do you want to see him?
Hopefully they weren't teasing us.
I mean, let's face it, he is the big bad. I mean, he always has been, always will be.
Yes.
How do you want to see him go out in this one?
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. How I want, you just want to see some glorious battle. Like, I'd like to see, Ben Solo. I like to see him redeemed. You want to see that just like you did with, Anakin, how he was redeemed finally and came back. You want to see that happen. I don't know if he's going to copy it and then everybody go, oh, he copied it. It's the same. Well, life is kind of the same, isn't it? In real life. So, and, we tend to, a lot of times carry on the sins of our father, and they always say it, you're like your father or your mother, so we all kind of make the same mistakes. So it is kind of an ode to that, and we'll see. I hear that they shot so much footage for this movie through the rumor mill that they almost made it to two-parter.
Yeah.
So I think my prediction is it's going to be the longest Star Wars movie ever. I'm saying I think it's going to come in at least near 3 hours or at 3 hours. That's my opinion. It may be longer. They almost were going to split it in two, but I guess they made some sort of a decision not to because they want to move on with stuff. But I just think I can't wait. I'm excited.
Oh, yeah. And I can't wait for The Mandalorian. That's the one I'm really, really super keen on.
The Mandalorian,
action.
yes.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't heard too much about it. We're coming up here. And by the way, just to mention it on your podcast, I don't know how soon this is going to go out, but All for Sci-Fi will be covering D23. So we will be live streaming from D23. So if you go and subscribe to our YouTube channel or our Facebook channel, everything is at All for Sci-Fi. Just one word, put it together, and no dashes. It's just one word, All for Sci-Fi spelled out. And check us out because we're going to be streaming live and we're going to be covering it. And we're excited. What I liked about what I've heard so far is he's using a lot of old elements from what is now not canon, and he's kind of making them canon. I understand he used some of the Ewok movie stuff, the Battle for Endor stuff, in The Mandalorian with a creature that the Marauders use, the Blurg. They call it the Blurg, I guess now, is in The Mandalorian. That's really cool.
It's bringing it in. I love it. The fact that now we can even step into this world with Batu, Galaxy's Edge, this amazing new attraction at Disney. Now, you've been a couple of times. What do you love about it?
I like the fact that Galaxy's Edge is really the most immersive park I've been to. You really feel like you're on a different planet. You can't see any of the park from there, so you really feel like you're on a different planet. The cast members that work there, they all have their own story. They're all in character. If you say, "Who are you? Where are you from?" They'll say, "Oh, I'm from Pika," which is a settlement where it's a little less crazy, and they have a river. It's a river community. They actually have all their backstories. It's pretty incredible. So, and I've been filming some of those and plan to share them as well. I've been getting a lot of footage at Galaxy's Edge, and I plan to put a little documentary together for All for Sci-Fi and show everybody that experience. My only criticism about it is Disney really screwed up on their stock. They have a lot of stock issues, like the Kyber crystals aren't in, then they're in, then they have rules where you got to buy a holocron, but you can only get one, but there's a set of 6. Does it make any sense that you buy a device that you can't even buy the whole set of things to play with it? You can only buy one, and then you have to buy 6 more. I mean, I don't need 6 holocrons. Do you?
No.
Of the same thing. So I mean, I understand that they should set limits, like say only one set. If you buy a holocron, you could buy a whole set of Kyber crystals, just one set per person. You could do that, because that's all that comes with the device. But then, of course, being creative, like, they are behind the scenes at Disney and Lucasfilm, they apparently for each Kyber crystal, they have different ones. So like the red one, one of them has Darth Maul, one of them has Darth Vader, one of them has Palpatine, one of them has Darth Bane from the Old Republic, which is voiced by Mark Hamill, I understand. And so there's 6 different red ones you can get. Here they are. I'm showing Adam this. So we're on like a Skype thing. So that's a red crystal. And then the rarest ones are the white ones and the yellow ones. And the white one has the gentleman from Rogue One. I can't pronounce the guy's name, but he was the one who died and always said, "I'm one with the Force. The Force is with me."
Chirrut,
his name. Okay, and the one I have is very rare and has Chirrut, because the most of them have. I believe Ahsoka on most of them, and then the blue ones, of course, have. The blue ones have. What do they have? They have. Trying to remember.
Kenobi, is it?
Yeah, Obi-Wan Kenobi has a blue saber.
Oh, blue saber.
Okay, so so whoever had the couple big ones that have blue sabers, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Probably Anakin.
I think Mark Hamill has one as well.
Yeah.
I think he's on one of these. And the green one, of course, has Qui-Gon Jinn and then Yoda on the green one. The purple one, of course, has the one and only Mace Windu on it.
They need to do a purple
Mace
one with
Towani.
your voice on that.
It'd be funny if they did one. Wouldn't it be hilarious?
Wouldn't it, just imagine somebody buys it and all of a sudden Mace Towani's on there and go, "Hey, I'm the original Mace, the OM."
Hey, and if anybody hears that who's doing it, I'll record one for everybody.
Oh, it's brilliant. I love it.
It's cool. I mean, it's just such a wonderful experience going to Galaxy's Edge. I think everybody needs to go. I hope Disney gets it together and gets their stock issues done and don't have ridiculous stuff like we talked about. But they have everything. Like the last time I was there, I got Han's dice. So I have his dice. And I also got these, I got Chance cubes, these Chance cubes. And I got the Sabak back there. I have a Sabak card so we could play later. I've been collecting stuff like, this mouse droid had popcorn in it.
Oh,
his
wow.
little mouse droid.
Nice.
So I have that, and it's just top notch. Everything. It's just like living a dream going to Galaxy's Edge. So I recommend everybody go. And Disney, if you're hearing this, get your stock together.
Oh yeah, and I want to see more of them around the world. Obviously, Disney World is the next place for another of these to be opened up. But I mean, there's Disney in where is it? In Paris, is it? I think, and one in Shanghai, I think, if I remember right.
Yeah, there's one in China too. Yeah, is there one in Japan?
I'm not sure. I think so.
Or is it still? Yeah, I would think it would be rather than do what they did, and they could have done this in Florida, but it's too late. But if they were smart, each galaxy's edge should have been a different planet.
Yeah, and a different floor plan completely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like maybe in Japan's pretty modern. Maybe in Japan they could have Coruscant. Let that be Coruscant, Yeah. That's something totally different, That might be too much money. Although $1 billion is still a lot of money. Maybe make one of them Coruscant or make one of them the Forest Moon of Endor. Mm-hmm. Well, you could do a lot of them. So
you think about it, you could do in each part of the world, do something completely different. I mean, I think that's what's so interesting. And I think, Australia's going to be in that area very soon now that ILM is back in Sydney.
I'm still here. Keep going.
Yeah, so apparently down in Sydney, down near Fox Studios, ILM have now got a new office down there and they're starting to work on projects in Sydney again.
Really?
True story.
Hello, I'm Warwick Davis, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
ILM, are they doing it because it's more affordable tax-wise, you think, or why?
I would say so. Tax offsets, tax breaks for international productions, yes. So I don't know whether they're actually, if they're producing anything there or if they're working on post-production duties, which is most likely probably what they're doing down here.
Okay, well, that sounds cool. I know that, it's just an exciting time. Again, exciting. I can't say that enough. And that's why I started all4sci-fi.com to bring it all out and to have a different perspective, like you mentioned, because I come from an acting background and music background as well. So I wanted to do it from a different perspective. And that's the whole part of it.
I mean, we're actually at that time where things that are starting to spread out into some really, I think, interesting areas. Now we have, I think, one of the more interesting directors out there, Denis Villeneuve, about to launch Dune. And at this stage, we've had two mildly successful sci-fi series back in 2000, which was done with William Hurt in the lead role of Duke Leto Atreides. We also had the David Lynch film, which is what it is.
Okay.
But I think Denis Villeneuve, after doing so many different movies, Sicario, doing also obviously Arrival, which was a very interesting science fiction film. But now...
No, it was a good movie, yeah.
And now, Blade Runner 2049, which is one of the more interesting sequels. Maybe not successfully in terms of box office, but it's very much critically, and most fans enjoyed what he did.
I enjoyed what he did with Blade Runner. It was definitely a worthy sequel. I would like to see more. Again, I can't wait to see what we just announced, the Matrix stuff coming up, to see what they do with that.
What do you think's going to happen with that, with the Matrix? Yeah. Where do you go with the Matrix after Matrix Revolutions? I mean, obviously...
but I mean, apparently they had something planned, because they act like they had something originally and they kind of just didn't move that direction for whatever reason.
Which is interesting because, I mean, you've got the fact that the machine world could pretty much, I suppose, reboot itself. It's rebooted itself, I think in the original film said 6 times they've done this evolution where the one comes forward. So this may be the 7th iteration of that, and we see...
I would think that Keanu Reeves, for him to get involved, he seems like he wouldn't get involved just to do it for a payday. He's not that type.
No, that's right.
So it must be pretty something. In my opinion, it's going to be something extraordinary just because of that. Also, we didn't talk about this, but Terminator Dark Fate has me excited. And the Terminator Dark Fate... I wasn't excited because, again, I don't want to have these reboots. But I'm okay with sequels if it goes somewhere else. That's not a problem. So I can't wait to see what... And the exciting thing is Linda Hamilton's back.
Yes.
That's exciting. But James Cameron's back producing it. He's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
So, wow. And I was watching, on our website, all4sci-fi.com, we placed a featurette where James Cameron's talking about coming back. So then that's the other thing. You could watch videos and featurettes and stuff like that. And we're going to keep expanding on all those videos. Like I'd been mentioning, we're covering D23, and we're doing more video stuff as part of the podcast. It's not just an audio podcast. We're doing more video stuff too. So it's great.
It's
exciting. But what were you going to say something about the Terminator Dark Fate?
Now I'm going to blow your mind. Somebody's also returning for that, and that is, of course, John Connor. Edward Furlong is in the film.
Yes, he's a. But from what I understand, he I don't know if this rumor is correct or not, but he's playing like a CGI version of himself, not what he is like now. That's what I've heard. I don't know, so we'll see. But that is very exciting that Edward Furlong has become. See, it takes the original people coming back to do it the right way. It kind of fell off track, but I think it's going in the right direction again. It's not just about a payday for the guy that says, "I'll be back." So,
it's interesting. We had 3 sequels that could not get it right. There's parts of them that are interesting here and there, but as a whole, they were never quite there. To be honest, the only ending I really liked out of those 3 separate non-Cameron sequels was the end of Rise of the Machines. The fact that they go into this little bunker where there's, I suppose, a little presidential or even a...
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I mean, it only had a few elements, but you can't make movies like that. If the original were like that, where it only had 1 or 2 nice elements, it would never have been a box office success.
That's right.
So you're exactly correct. But this one looks like it looks good. Hopefully they didn't give away everything. They didn't give away hardly anything in what we're seeing. We just kind of see her on a freeway with some voiceover stuff. So, and you got Lightstorm Entertainment which is his version of ILM. So doing the special effects, and we know how great they are. And they did Alita Battle Angel, which was a good sci-fi movie as well. With Robert Rodriguez directing it. Did you see Alita Battle Angel?
I did, and I'm gonna say an unpopular opinion here for all of our folks at home. I'm gonna say that was the best film of last year, and even considering I loved Ready Player One, but I think this is a better film.
I think the acting's better, even though it's a CGI character. You really, really believed it. They're getting so good with the CGI. That character who played the Alita, you started to believe she was real by the end of it. And she was more human, like her boyfriend said. You're more human than humans. Which is, and in coming years, of course, we got all the Avatar sequels coming. So we'll see since we're talking about James Cameron, we'll see what he does with all that. I would love it if somebody would play Pandora for him and see if he likes it, because he could have it if he wants it. That was written for him.
That song is so atmospheric. Folks, if you haven't checked it out, you got to check out Eric Walker Music on YouTube, because I tell you now, not only that song, but the back catalogue that you have is so atmospheric and cinematic in many ways, but also
and that
brings the funk.
Thank you. It brings the funk. That's the black in me. All my black friends said, "You must have been black." Yeah, I don't know, but maybe I did somewhere in my history. But thank you very much for that, talking about my music. But I come from that background. That's why it's that way. I come from the entertainment universe, and that's my universe. So I'm used to hearing movie music. So my music, and then I was mentored by people like Vangelis and Tangerine Dream and Jean-Michel Jarre. Not mentored like I personally knew them, but I grew up with their music, and that formed how I write. So I got that with the movie, the picture of their music with a little bit more cinematic, with orchestrational stuff, and then growing up in the 80s and 70s, I got that stuff from Michael Jackson down to Slave and Parliament Funkadelic and George Clinton in me. So that's why, and I do have quite an extensive catalog. I've released 3 albums. And what we were talking about was Pandora, which is a song that's on my Universal Delight album. And it was inspired by Jim Cameron's movie Avatar. I was envisioning, like, when they're riding, I can't remember the creatures' names, but when they're out there riding those creatures that they try to conquer. And that was kind of what that was about. And of course, the Tree of Life and that mystical element is also in there. with some people doing singers doing the stuff in between. So
it's truly amazing. Now, could we see in the next year an Eric Walker tribute to Dune?
Maybe. I need to go back and watch the original one a couple more times. Speaking of that, Sean Phillips is in the second Ewok movie, and she was in Dune. Another thing, a lot of us are getting together for the first time ever. Next year, we're going to be doing a convention in Florida called Pensacon, and it's being set up, and I'm going to be there. Wilford Brimley's going to be there. Sean Phillips is going to be there. We're keeping our fingers crossed. We're going to ask Aubrey. I probably shouldn't say that on this podcast. I don't know if she listens to it, but we're going to see if we could try to get her out there and ask her. I'm going with you need to go. Wilford Brimley's getting very old, and I'd spent a long time since I was a kid since I've seen him, and of course Aubrey's a lot closer to Wilford than me because she started in the second movie.
Yep.
The Ewoks About a Foreigner with Wilford. So I'm going to tell her, look, Wilford's 82 years old, so why don't you go to it so you can spend some time with him if you remember. The problem with her is she, as I've talked about maybe a few times on this show or other shows, is she was 4 and 5 years old. She doesn't remember doing these movies. So to go up and ask her questions about it, she doesn't really remember it. So I get that. I understand why she doesn't go out and do conventions or do meetups because of that. And I think the one convention she did, she might have done that because she wanted to say hi to me again. And I appreciate that. And sometimes, and we are in contact through email, but I don't always ask her to go to conventions because she just doesn't remember that stuff. So that's another story. But yeah, we're going to be doing Pensacon next year at the end of February. Look it up online. It's in Florida, in Pensacola, Florida. It's called Pensacon. It's on Facebook or you can look it up on Google. But they're billing it as a big Ewok reunion. If they could get Warwick Davis, I don't know if they could afford him though. That would be great.
Well, the thing is, they can rope him in as not only Ewok, but they can say, "Here's Willow," I suppose as well.
Willow, and he was in all the Harry Potter movies, and he was Leprechaun. The Leprechaun series was really big here. But I don't know if, like I said, I don't. One of his booking agents is my agent as well, so. I don't know if he could talk him into doing it or not, but he's a busy guy, so you got to pay him to come out probably, and he deserves it. But it would be nice to see him there since a lot of us are going to be there.
I'm Corey D, and I get my Star Wars news from Fantha Tracks.
And the fact that you two are good friends as well. It'd be nice to get you two back together.
Yeah, we haven't chatted in a while other than email. So I think the last time I spoke to Warwick Davis on the phone would have been when I was in London a while ago now. I mean, since then, we've had some emails back and forth. But it would be nice to chat again. Who knows? And, we sci-fi, going back to the reason for this podcast, allforsci-fi.com, the Disney Plus service is coming soon. So we're going to have lots of content for that. All the Marvel stuff, The Mandalorian, and who knows? It would be nice if they released the Ewok movies on Disney Plus, but they have released them on Amazon finally. You could go and rent them or get a digital rental or get a digital download. So if anybody wants to see Caravan of Courage or Ewoks About a Foreigner, Amazon does have them available for rent or purchase now digitally. But let's hope that it comes on Disney Plus. That would be awesome.
Now, I have some good news about Caravan of Courage for you folks out there who may not have seen the cinematic release in Australia when it was out. There was, this is what I found out, a number of drive-in releases of Caravan of Courage.
Okay. Wow. They're in Australia?
In Australia, apparently, yeah. So somebody got in touch with me a little while ago, and because we were talking about it on air, about how the film was being released in a number of different spots where it was shown either theatrically for a time and also on TV as well, obviously.
Sure.
But, when I heard drive-in, I was like, wow, I'm surprised it didn't happen in Brisbane, because we had, at the time in my area, when it was out, probably about 10 in the local area, just drive-ins.
Yeah, that was back when drive-ins was still a big thing, for sure. I could tell you this. A lot of people around the world only saw it on TV, but I saw it in a movie theater. When they had the premiere, of course, for the cast and crew, we all saw it in the movie theater. and it played so much better on. When I saw it on TV, it was kind of a disappointment. It was so much better with the matte paintings and all the special effects. Much better for a feature film release, and it did okay. It did very well in France. It did okay, sort of okay in England. It did better in France. Did okay in Germany. Did very well in Japan, and as you mentioned, you had a release there as well. You guys have the pleasure of having some sort of game that came out.
Yes.
And only I think Australia got it. It was some sort of Ewok adventure game, I think, right?
Correct. I've never actually seen it myself, but yes, there was a game release. And I think it was in the latter part of the 80s from what I've been told. But again, it was Caravan of Courage.
Yeah. And Jon Favreau said at Celebration Chicago that Caravan of Courage was his inspiration, although some of that might have been joking. He actually did use stuff from the movies, so...
Brilliant.
It's just brilliant. And yeah, so I got a lot of exciting things coming, going to conventions, doing this all for sci-fi thing. And I'm still working on the music, and I'm working on that sci-fi novel, which I'm still called, the Timekeepers, and which if you listen to my first album, Tangier Dream, you get a little bit of that. You hear a little bit of, but I'm writing a whole full novel. And I got music that's inspired. So as you read the novel, you could listen to each chapter is going to have a song. So you could kind of get in the mood of where you're at, which I think is not really being done. I don't know if anybody's done it. Be cool to do. And I'm trying to work on trying to get that released in 2020. I did release a single recently called Dare to Dream in a Galaxy Far, Far Away, which I got to be Mace again, which was cool. That video is on YouTube. And it's a great dance track. So if you want it, it's a catchy song. A gentleman of mine, ACM, sang on the track, and I did a little bit of rapping. Dare to Dream in a Galaxy Far, Far Away is out. So go listen to it. Watch the music video. I do have a whole album of music with ACM and me doing different rapping that's going to be coming out at the end of this year or the next early 2020. And I think it's going to be, I don't know if we're going to call it Dare to Dream. We might be calling the album Dare to Dream, but the name of the album hasn't been decided yet. But we actually recorded 10 songs. So we have a lot of material.
It's brilliant. And the film clip's fantastic. Obviously shot with Skywalking Through Neverlands, Richard and Sarah Wolosky, dear friends of mine. And I'm glad to see that they're out with you filming that. That was fantastic.
Richard and Sarah are just some of the most down-to-earth people you ever meet in your life, and they're so real. And Richard and I went on it. I did his podcast back when he was first starting it, and it's blossomed. It's a great show, Skywalking Through Neverland. And I contacted Richard as we were editing this music video, and we were working very hard. I looked over at Richard and I said, "Sorry, Richard. Had you had known," he goes, "Eric, I knew what I was getting into, but I said yes." So, and I said, "Wow, thank you." Because he worked very hard. Richard did a great job on directing the music video. So thank you, Richard. Thank you, Sarah, as well, for letting your man take time away from you to help us do this. So
just such a lovely, and I think that one thing about them is the positivity and sort of family atmosphere that everyone feels around that, and I think that's what's so welcoming.
It is, and we're all kind of kindred spirits. We're all very similar. I love to be happy. Who wants to be Debbie Downer? Debbie doesn't. Who wants to be that way? And every day you wake up, it's a brand new day. If you're breathing and you're on this planet, live your life. And don't go on the internet and be a troll. One of these days I'm going to write a movie, maybe a horror film about somebody that goes and kills all the internet trolls. That might be a good.
I think we'll all be standing in the background going, yes.
Cheering.
Yeah. I think there's a very spoilt generation of kids out there who have had basically everything they wanted. We wanted more Star Wars films. We got them. We wanted Marvel films. We got them. And then when people don't get in their own mind's eye what they want, the greed of them,
right.
That's when it turns them into these creatures, these trolls.
It's true. That's and it's not to say that they weren't there all along. They might have been there all along. They didn't have such a loud voice. The internet is giving them a loud voice, even though it's probably a small group. I mean, I hate to compare it to mental illness, but it kind of is a mental illness.
It is, yes.
To be that way. So it's more out there, and it's more out there, and it's more in the open. And unfortunately, we have a leader who's kind of thinks he's the supreme leader in our country, and he suffers from mental illness and a whole bunch of other things. But that's another show. So,
without a doubt. Now, folks, you got to go and check out allforsci-fi.com. It is your one-stop shop for science fiction, and of course, a voice for the podcast itself by the one, the man, the myth, the legend, Eric Walker will guide you through all the latest there. Is there any other places people can catch up with you online to catch all your music as well?
Well, the music part of me, and that's not related to allforsci-fi.com, is you go to my website. My official website is ericwalkermusic.com. And there you can learn about my music and my acting from the Caravan of Courage, and where I'm going to be at my next appearance at these, like I mentioned, the Pensacola thing with Wilford Brimley and Sean Phillips. So, and I'd love to come down under, I'd love to come out and meet Adam. I'd love to go to SupernovaCon. Maybe somehow that could happen one day. If anybody out there is listening, and everybody write in and tell those mates or chaps, tell them, get Eric Walker here. I'd love to come out there as well. It'd be fun.
You know what, Supernova? We're going to tag you in this episode when it goes out, because there you go. You have an offer to get the wealth of knowledge and the music of this gentleman right here when it comes down under.
Yes, I'd love to come. I'd love to perform as well, and do that. So that would be fun. And of course, sharing experiences from when I worked in Star Wars, that would also be awesome. But yeah, that's the place to find me. And I have a YouTube channel. Everything's Eric Walker Music, because that's what I'm doing currently. And also, while we're here, go to allforsci-fi.com and bookmark the website. Go to us on YouTube and Facebook, our Twitter. We're at the same handle on all of them. It's at all4sci-fi, all one word.
Fantastic. So, folks, go and check it out. This is Adam O'Brien, the mullet, the man, of course, the Fantha from Down Under. You can catch us here on the next episode. I want to thank Eric for his help today on this amazing episode, and I hope you check out all his links and info more. Mate, thank you so much for being on.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me again. It's always a joy and a pleasure to speak with you.
Well, thanks, folks, for listening to this episode of the Fantha from Down Under. And a huge thanks to Eric for being on the show again. And go and check out his obviously fantastic work that you can find all over the web right now, obviously with allforsci-fi.com. And check out, of course, Eric Walker Music. All right, so next week we're going to have Kyle from the Phantom Podcast Network on to have his say on the state of Star Wars. You can catch me, the Fantha from Down Under, at Fantha Tracks on Fantha Tracks Radio. Check it out wherever you can find great podcasts. We'll catch you next time.